Boom. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy Thursday to you all. And yes, we're back. We're finally back for another beer review. It's been a crazy few weeks, let me tell you this. So, a little story time before we actually get this started. Where the hell I have been. So, of course, end of October, had my birthday going around. So, I was in Vegas for my birthday with a couple of friends, which was a blast. It was just, it was a crazy weekend. So, I was in Vegas. And while I was in Vegas, I ended up drinking too much out there. So I needed to give myself some time after I got back to kind of detox my system a little bit, get back on the right track. Because got a lot of hand in Vegas. I'm going to tell you that right now. But so I took that following week, just gave myself a break of alcohol and doing reviews and all that kind of stuff. And then the following week, Monday, Tuesday, I went into work, did some stuff I missed over the time I was gone. And that Monday, I started not feeling well, which kind of sucked, but then I was like, oh, maybe it'll go in a couple days. Almost a week and a half later, I am finally feeling better. I had some kind of like weird, I guess there's some kind of bug going around or something like that. It was like, felt like a head cold, but it was just crazy congestion, blowing my nose every 12 seconds. It was annoying, but I'm glad to finally be over it and on the back end of it finally. So I thought, since I'm feeling better, it's time to get back into the grind of things and start doing reviews again. So today we're going to be taking a look at another beer from Turning Point Beer. They're out of Bedford, Texas, and I seem to be recently looking at my recent videos. I've been doing a lot of reviews for beers out of Texas, which is not a bad thing. I know Texas is a really, really nice craft beer state, and they have a lot of fantastic breweries out there when it comes to like Urban South, Celestial Beer Works, of course, Turning Point. You got Buffalo Bayous out there. There's a bunch of breweries down in Texas that are just killing it. Of course, you got Weathered Souls as well. So today we got an IPA here called Mango Somebody Sit Me. It's themed after the mask, and I don't think it's like a milkshake IPA. I never thought it would be in that kind of realm, but it's a New England haze. It's a double New England hazy IPA, and it's brewed with mangoes, to be exact. I don't know if it's I think it's more on the end of being conditioned with mangoes. They most likely added in while it was in the bright, most likely. So when it was in the tank to be carbonated, they most likely added a lot of mango puree to kind of bring in those more fruitier flavors. But of course, with the hops they use in this one, of course, New England IPAs are known for being on the side of fruity. And they used Mosaic, Vic Secret, and El Dorado, which all three of them have a nice mixture of nice fruity notes, tropical fruit, citrus, and then also having some nice kind of a little bit of hoppy bitterness coming in with them as well. Of course, you're going to get some nice aromas coming through it. But I don't think it's going to be too crazy when it comes to hoppy aroma. The one thing that I'm curious about with this one specifically is with mangoes, adding it into an IPA, especially using mango puree, it can get a little weird. Mango puree has a weird acidity level that you have to, like, when you add it, you have to see if the acidity stays or not. And of course, there's always ways to get rid of acidity when it comes to using a puree if you don't want that kind of crazy acidic bite to it to where it feels like it's going to like trigger acid reflux after each sip. Because I've had some milkshake IPAs and some fruitier kind of fruit puree IPAs that have done that before, just because it's a little bit too bitter, it's a little bit too hoppy, and the hoppy bitterness doesn't mix well with the acidity of whatever kind of fruit puree they use in it. But with this being mango, I'm a huge fan of mangoes anyway, so I'm really curious to see how this one is. Of course, I was a big fan of The Mask. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a classic. And so I really, really enjoy that they kind of made a theme off of The Mask with this one. Of course, they got the hat. They got all kinds of crazy designs. I thought this can art was really, really dope. So what I'm expecting with this one, I don't really want any crazy acidity when it comes to the mango flavor in there. Of course, I want some nice fruitiness with the hops. Maybe have a little bit of a nice, slightly bitter aroma. Who knows? They might have, if it's not crazy on the bitter aromas up front, then you're most likely going to say that they added the hops at the end of the boil, most likely. Because when you're adding hops near the beginning of the boil, that's where you're going to get your bitterness, and along with that's where you're going to be getting most of your aromas from. So if you're trying to get the aroma profile in this one pretty strong, of course they're going to be adding the hops to it towards the beginning of the boil and all that kind of stuff. But if it's more fruity and having less of a bitter like aroma profile to it, most likely will tell me that they add a lot of their hops towards the end of the boil, mid to the end of the boil most likely. And of course there's most likely going to be dry hopping added to this one as well. So I'm pretty stoked to give this one a try. So if I didn't mention before, it's an 8.2% ABV, so of course I would not consider this being in the realm of sessionable for me. Of course, my sessionability range cuts off at around the 7.5, so you can have more than one of those and be fine, but having an 8.2, you're definitely going to be feeling it after this. So I think it's time for us to crack this thing open and see what this thing's like on the nose. Let's see what we get. Okay, it's not too crazy. Not really getting a lot on the aroma, surprisingly, so it makes me think that a lot of their hops were added towards the end of the boil, most likely. Not really. It's weird. I don't know if just maybe my sinuses, but it's very, very mild on aroma. So it's like you're getting a little bit of citrusiness. Definitely getting a little bit of like hoppiness. Of course, that's going to be coming from I believe the El Dorado is going to be bringing a lot of it. If they did add hops in the beginning of the boil, to me, personally, if I was looking to kind of get that hoppiness, of course, up front, I would be adding the El Dorado to be like a first wort hop, or possibly adding it towards maybe right when you start boiling it, or probably at the 60 to 90 minute mark. Of course, once you get to like the 30 and all that kind of stuff, that's where you're going to be doing your moss conditions and all that kind of stuff. But let's pour this thing and see what it's all about when it comes to color. Of course, New England Hazy IPAs really have that nice orange juice kind of color to them. So I'm expecting to have a really nice haze to it. I'm going to be drinking this out of my Heart of the North glass this afternoon. And let's pour this thing and see what it's all about. Definitely has a nice haze to it. Surprisingly, if it's using mango puree, I don't see a lot of like sediment in there. Who knows? I just swirled it. Let's see if we get some other stuff coming out of there. Surprisingly, not getting a lot of sediment. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I wonder if they filtered this guy out beforehand, or most likely when you're during the chilling process and all that kind of stuff. If you're kind of before you send your beer or your wort, practically before you add the yeast and all that kind of stuff, when you're getting in the process, they're lowering the temp, getting your whirlpool ready, and then kind of moving it over to the other tank just to kind of get it ready to chill. A lot of breweries do kind of put it through a filtration kind of thing. You don't want, if it's really hoppy, if you can probably filter it pretty damn well to where you'll most likely get no sediment, but you'll still get full of flavor. And that's what it looks like if they did with this one. When they added the puree in that, they could have just shot it out at the bottom of the bright, most likely, when they were doing that. Because, of course, they shot all the yeast out because they might be reusing the yeast or something like that if they decide to use in a different beer, because that's what you can do if you wanted to kind of use this. It's like almost recycling yeast. If the yeast is active and it's still doing some good things, you can take the yeast out of the fermenter after it's been working with the beer to reuse it in something else. Maybe if you want to do another batch of this right afterwards, you can use that same yeast that you used before. So, of course, there was some pretty good filtration on this one. Not a lot of sediment, but has a really, really nice kind of like almost golden, orange, juicy kind of color. A little bit more of a deeper kind of orange color to it. Still pretty light on the aroma, surprisingly. So definitely still getting a little bit of tropical fruit, a little citrus, a little bit of hoppiness. But yeah, I think this smells pretty fantastic. So I'm going to give this guy a try and see what it's all about. So cheers, everybody. It's good to be back. And happy fucking Thursday to you all. Okay. So right off the bat, I'm not really getting like a note of just like mango hitting you in the face. There's definitely a sweetness. Definitely. I'm wondering if they didn't use mango puree or anything like that at all. I wonder if they just used hops to kind of bring off. Because a lot of the Mosaic brings off tropical fruit. Vic Secret brings off tropical fruit like passion fruit notes. And El Dorado brings in that kind of nice pine and citrus tropical fruit kind of note to it as well. So I'm wondering if they left it up to the hops to bring in those mango flavors, because I'm not getting any hint of like a mango puree that they added to it. They might have done a really, really small amount and let those hops kind of speak for themselves. But to me, when I look at just getting straight mango in the face, I'm not getting that, which is interesting. So I'm wondering if that's what they did. They kind of maybe added a little bit of puree in there, just kind of get that little hint of mango. But I also think they most likely left it up to the hops to bring out those flavors. Not really getting a crazy acidity from it. There's definitely a bitterness. Not as sweet and fruity as I thought it would be. But you're getting those like tropical fruit and citrus flavors, of course. But then towards the end, you start getting those like more of a bitter kind of just hoppy bitterness towards the end. It's definitely a juicy IPA. I would definitely consider this juicy AF. But I don't know if I'd consider this like just a mango slap you in the face kind of beer, which I don't know if they were ever intending it to be that. I think they were just hoping to get slight hits of mango, of course letting those hops kind of enhance those flavors a little bit more. But overall, I think it's a pretty solid beer. I don't know if it kind of goes with the description of what this beer would be since they consider it a mango New England Hazy IPA. I don't know if I'd really say just by trying it that you get those mango flavors. But I guess you can a little bit. I wouldn't go promoting this one as a mango New England Hazy IPA just because there's not enough mango in my head specifically to kind of distinguish that it's a mango Hazy IPA. So, who knows? Yeah, maybe just a little sip of mango. Delia, but who knows? But let's see here. Let's go over to Untappd. And let's see if they show a description. Of course, description is pretty much what I told you. It's a mango New England double IPA with Mosaic, Vic Secret, and Eldorado hops. Let's see what else they show here. 8.2% ABV, like it states on the can. And let's look at the ratings, see what other people had to say. For ratings, there was only 619 ratings on this guy with an average of 3.96 out of 5 on Untapped, which is not bad. It's definitely on that higher tier of people enjoying it. Of course, it hasn't reached that average of a 4, which whenever I see a beer on Untapped that has that average of a 4, I pretty much know that it's going to be a pretty damn solid beer. This is still good, don't get me wrong. But I can definitely see why it's only gotten that like 3.96 average. So before we start looking at the global ratings and all that kind of stuff, let's try to figure out if we can find a beer similar to this. I'm not really a big fan of the similar beers list that they're showing on this beer. Sometimes when it comes to the similar beers list on Untapped, it can be a little weird because a bunch of beers sometimes have the same similar beers list that really don't have to be the closest when it comes to being similar to the beer you're looking at. It's weird. So we're going to go over to my beer history. Of course, we're going to look under the IPA Imperial Double New England Hazy, because you can go on your beer history and all that kind of stuff and see what you've had. So let's go to IPA and Imperial Double New England Hazy. And let's see. Of course, we got another one here from Turning Point that's showing up, which is the Double Dry Hop Dingle Bop, which is a fantastic beer. If you haven't tried that one, I highly, highly recommend it. It's highly rated on my end. The Metaphase from Drecker. I don't know if I'd really consider this one similar to that. Of course, you got the Special Sauce Mosaic from Microphone, which is a single hop IPA. Yeah, it could be pretty close to that. Of course, you have Mosaic in there, so you'll get similar flavors to that as well. But let's see if I could try to find something that'll bring you hints of like mango. Maybe the Double Dry Hopped Milking It African Queen from Icarus. I'm going to probably say that's going to be pretty similar. Of course, that's going to be really creamy and having those kind of like juicy notes as well. What else? We got a couple ones here from Drecker. Of course, you got the Operation Magical and then the Long-Haired Freaky People. I'd even put the Fresh Lobster on this one for being similar from Aurora Brewing Company. That's a 9.5%, but definitely put the Stinky Fingers on there as well to be similar to this. Of course, Spindle Tap is another Texas brewery out there, so if you have the opportunity to kind of go through a little bit of Texas brewery tours kind of situation, of course, you got Spindle Tap, you got Turning Point, you got who else is out there? Buffalo Bayou, that's in like the Houston area. Of course, who else do we got out here? Urban South. There's a bunch of breweries in Texas that are kind of helping create a nice little scene down there where for a while Texas didn't really have a craft brewery scene. I mean, I've seen a couple breweries out in Texas, but over the years I've started to notice the amount of breweries that are in Texas starting to grow and kind of give it its own scene, which I think they deserve out there. They need something that's a little bit bougie when it comes to just how the old-fashioned way of doing things down in Texas are. So for the most, of course, the ones I want to put at the most similar to this one, of course, the Special Sauce from Microphone, the Mosaic is going to be similar just because there's Mosaic in that one. So you're going to get kind of similar flavors from the Mosaic hops in that one, even though it's going to be a little bit different just because that's a single hop IPA. Okay, you have a couple beers from Spindle Tap. Of course, there's some beers from Drecker. The Double Dry Hop Milking It African Queen from Icarus I could put in the realm of being sessionable. The Fresh Lobster from Aurora Brewing Company. So there's a bunch of options out there that if you want a kind of nice, just a juicy, hazy IPA, of course, there's definitely a bunch of different varieties out there that you can find that are going to be pretty damn similar. I don't know if it's going to be specific when it comes to having them make it with mango, even though this one there's not really a crazy amount of mango. You might just have to look out and see what you can find. I know there's a bunch of liquor stores and bottle shops around that have pretty good variety, so you just kind of got to go over there and just look. So, back to all that, let's look at Untapped again, and let's see what other people are rating this guy. So let's see here. Let's look at my friends list. Of course, we got one check in here from my father because whenever I buy a beer off Tavour, I'm usually getting two, one for me, one for him. So he checked it in. He gave it a 3.75 out of 5, which, yeah, I could definitely see that. But let's look here at the global ratings and see what other people had to say. So this person gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Of course, we got a 4, another 3.5. Let's see, we got another 4 out of 5 purchased off Tavor. This person gave it a full 5 out of 5. Oh, we got a 4 out of 5 here purchased at Bourbon Street Liquor, which is in Upland, California. So it's actually, hold on, Bourbon Street Liquor. They're saying it's a food truck. A food truck / liquor store. Interesting. What else we got here? This guy purchased his off Tavor. He gave it a 4 out of 5. We got another 4 out of 5. He looks like he drank this at 301 North Park Street. Where is that located? In Lebanon, Indiana? Huh. Interesting. What else do we got? Might be just an address of his house. What else do we got here? Yeah, this one is perfect when it comes to the description. He gave it a 4 out of 5, saying, "Cheers, y'all. Not much mango, but smooth New England IPA." Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So overall, ratings on this one are pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to be giving it that 4 out of 5 thing. I mean, it's solid. It's a nice New England hazy IPA, but I wish there was just a little bit more of mango in there to kind of give you that just nice kind of tropical mango flavor in there as well. But overall, the only thing that I can gripe around this is there's not enough mango. It's not acidic. It's definitely juicy. Has enough of those like tropical fruit and citrus flavors in there to keep me interested. And overall, it's a solid. Has a nice haze to it. ABV isn't too strong when it comes to tasting any booziness. So overall, it's a solid beer. It's not the best New England hazy IPA that I've had, but it's definitely up there for being another really, really good beer from Turning Point that I've had. So with all that being said, let's start trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing for ratings over here on RN with this guy. And I think I already poured the rest of it into the glass. Yes, I did. And the first thing we like to look at is can art. And Turning Point is usually, they like to use smaller labels when it comes to how they label their beers. I don't know why. I mean, it is what it is, but for what they did with the art on this one, I'm a really, really huge fan of it. Just like I said in the beginning of the review, I'm a really big fan of the masks. So having this whole entire theme be mask themed, where they have the hat on the mango, having those kind of like the yellows and oranges in there remind me of his suit that he wore. So of course they got the like mango juice come out of the bottom. But overall, really nice can art. Of course, Turning Point's logo is always really clean when it comes to just that logo on top. Of course, if you ever see that logo, you know you're drinking a Turning Point beer. So, yeah, I like it. I don't know if it's my favorite kind of can art, but it's definitely something that appeals to me just because I was a big fan of the movie. So I'm going to give this a solid 4.5 out of 5 for can art. I'm a really big fan of this one for sure. So let's see here. If I got this beer in a flight over at Turning Point Beer, if I went over to Bedford, Texas, let's look and see what they have on tap over there right now before we do that. Beer, let's see, new releases. They got their kind of Halloween themed situation that released at the end of October. So you got the Michael, you got the Ghostface, the Freddy, and then the Jason, which they're all Imperial Pastry Stouts over there. That if you're able to make the releases for those, you're probably having a nice, either you're aging it or you already had a nice drink already. But let's see what other kind of stuff they have available right now. So they have I really like the name on this one. They have a double dry hopped oak aged Kama Citra. So it's a double dry hop oak aged IPA, which definitely sounds interesting. They got a triple IPA called the Burt Macklin. Let's see, another cold IPA. Interesting. So they collaborated with Funky Picnic Brewery. A couple New England hazies. What else? A lot of IPAs on tap right now. Definitely a lot of IPAs. Holy crap. Of course, the money sign Texas is on there. They got the double dry hop Dingle Bop available right now. They have a bunch of IPAs that can give you some pretty good flavors right now. So let's see. They got some sours. Decent amount of sours. They got all their stouts when it comes to their Ghostface, Freddy, Jason, Michael. Then they have some other, like they have some seltzers, lagers, pilsners, some Helles lagers they still have around from Oktoberfest. But let's see what they have available in their to-go options. So looks like a lot of the same ones that I listed off for IPAs already. Of course, the same sours, and it looks like the stouts as well. So yeah, they have a pretty good selection available right now. Unfortunately, this one is not available, so you just have to keep an eye out and see what you'll be able to get. Of course, on their website, they promote Tavor being a place where you can purchase their beers. So if you get yourself on Tavor, you might be able to have the opportunity to purchase some Turning Point beer in the future. Of course, if you ever see them show up on your list, why? Okay, my camera did something weird there. If you ever see them show up on your Tavour list, you can always shoot them a follow to whenever they release another beer from Tavour. You will have the opportunity to buy it because it will show up on your list. So always keep track of what's showing up on your Tavour list and everything like that, what pops up on the app, because you never know what you can find, and you might be able to find another Turning Point beer. So, if I got this beer in a flight, would I get another one? I mean, I would if I wanted to. This is definitely a beer that I can have another one if I had it in a flight, for sure. But most likely I would choose not to, just because I would like to try something else, and just because this tastes like, it's a solid New England IPA, but it tastes like a bunch of different New England IPAs that I've had. So, if there was the addition of more mango in there, it would most likely be a situation to where it would be a guaranteed yes, I'd have more if the mango flavor was a little more predominant and there was no acidity. So, overall, I think it's still a solid beer, but I'd be fine with just having a 5-ounce glass of this in a flight. Of course, if I chose to, I can easily drink another one of these. It would most likely be, if it's an 8.2, it could be most likely be closer to a 10-ounce pour. I mean, who knows? But overall, it's still a solid beer for sure. But with all that being said, what is my final rating on this guy going to be? To be honest, I'm going to give this one a very, very solid 7 out of 10. It's good. Like I said, I would have liked a little bit more mango in there to kind of bring in that freaking nice tropical fruitiness to it, of course. It would help bring out a little bit more of that citrusiness as well. So if they used just a little bit more mango puree or whatever they decided to use, I think it would be that much better. So who knows, maybe on the next batch they decide to do, they'll add a little bit more mango puree. But 7 out of 10, I think, is where I'm going to leave with this one. Still a pretty solid one. If you have the option to pick this one up when it becomes available, I'd definitely recommend it. If you want something that's just a nice, solid New England Hazy IPA, yeah, this will hit all those marks for you. Of course, be warned, there's a little bit of acidity to it, but it's nothing that's like overwhelming or to where if you have acid reflux, it's not going to trigger acid reflux or anything like that. But other than that, I think that is pretty much what I have for you guys today. So thank you everybody in chat for hanging out. You guys are awesome. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button. It'll help me out a lot. Also, just getting back in the swing of things. Things seemed a little bit delayed, just trying to get back on schedule and all that kind of stuff. So I plan to have reviews for the rest of the week, so keep an eye out for those. I don't know how it's going to be the beginning of next week, just because I have work and some stuff to catch up on there. It's going to be a little bit of a hectic kind of couple days starting next week at work, just because we have a lot of stuff to do, and I don't know if, I guess we have a good amount of time, but it seems like it's a short time to do it. So I'll most likely have reviews all the rest of this week, plus probably mid to the late next week as well, so keep an eye out for those. Of course, I know I haven't shipped out, this is, if Grinchy, if you end up watching this, I know I haven't shipped out your package yet. It's been a little bit of a money kind of situation lately for me, so I'm just trying to get my funds back in order. So of course, your beer is ready to go. It'll be shipped out as soon as my funds are available to do so. And I'll probably be doing the drawing for October's drawing for the Patreon as well tomorrow, I would say. So if you want to have the opportunity to get your hands on that, of course, you can join the Patreon. I'll be talking about that in a second. But I'll be doing the drawing on that tomorrow. So I'll be sending out September's winner along with October's winner when the funds become available. I'm in the process of getting some money my way, so just keep an eye out for that. But also, if you want to follow me on all my social media platforms, or you have the option to do so, of course, you have my Instagram where you'll see what I'm be posting, what I'm be reviewing that day, all that kind of stuff. Of course, that'll be where you could also see behind the scenes stuff going over the brewery when it comes to do all the stuff I do over there. But then, of course, if you want to shoot me a friend request on Untapped as well, you guys hear me talk about Untapped all the time. I think it's a fantastic platform. You can check in beers, get badges, all that kind of stuff. I like to call it Facebook for beer drinkers because that's pretty much what it is. So if you have the opportunity to get on there, Delia, talking to you and Rhett specifically, tell your husband to make an Untapped account, goddammit. And that's the same for you, because I know you guys will probably have a fun time over there checking in beers, because I know you like your beer, and Rhett does too. So you two need to get on Untapped as soon as possible because it's a fun time. And last but not least, of course, if you want to help me do what I do, the best way to do so is to get yourself over to the Patreon. It's helping me get more funds in my pocket. It's helping me get more stuff out to you guys. I know things are a little bit slower when it comes to reviews and all that kind of stuff, doing one review a month. Well, not one review, but just one giveaway a month. I'm just working things to get back in order, of course, when funds and everything and my money situation get back in a little bit of a well-rounded part of things, then you might start seeing more giveaways happen over there. So if you want to take advantage of all the other stuff that I'm hopefully going to be doing in the future when it comes to Patreon, plus help me out greatly with get more beer in my hands, plus so I can get more beer out to you guys, the Patreon is going to be the best way to do so. So if you want to support me and help me do what I do, the Patreon is the place to do it. So link to that is down in my description below. But other than that, that is what I have for you guys today. So again, thank you everybody in chat for hanging out. You guys are awesome. Thank you everybody who's going to be watching the replay as well. You guys are fantastic. And I'm going to end this like I always do before we get the hell out of here. If you're going to drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. And I'll see you all next time. Cheers.